What's up, guys? Welcome back to Mike Record Fitness. In today's episode, I have a rare opportunity to interview my older brother. Lives across the country, but he's here in town for a little while, and he has kind of struggled with some of the same things I've struggled with as far as gaining mass. He was at one point really skinny. He's been able to gain a lot of weight. I know a lot of it has to do with his powerlifting, some dabbling in power building and compound lifts and things like that, but of course a lot more has to do with his diet. So I'm really excited to hear some things from him about what he's been able to do as far as training his diet, training his metabolism. So without further ado, let's get into the interview.
Right. We rolling on both.
We rolling. First of all, how long has it been of you being dedicated with your fitness routine, and how much weight have you gained?
So I've been training for about 3 years with nothing before that, completely sedentary life. For a lot of my life as a teenager and in my early adulthood, I was 143 pounds. I'm 6'1". And then I kind of crept up to about 147 in college, but I never broke the 150 mark. And these days I'm between 180 and 195, depending on where I am in my cycle.
Okay. I want to talk more about diet because I know that is the harder part to figure out. There's a lot of information about working out and things like that and splits and all that on the internet, and that's awesome. But for you, what has been the most difficult thing about figuring out your diet?
Well, like a lot of people who are at where I was, just quantity is the first thing. Realizing that yes, you do have to eat that much. So I'm just eating 5 meals a day, trying to get my calorie intake up and getting my metabolism adjusted. That was the most difficult thing at the beginning.
Was there a point where you felt like you were overdoing it as far as what you were eating, or was there something you were doing wrong in the early stages that you fixed later on?
Sure. So in the early stages, I was fixated on protein. So if you spend a lot of time on YouTube, you'll see all this stuff about how much protein, and that's what a lot of people emphasize. And it's truly very important. But I completely failed to understand how the whole nutritional picture, including healthy carbs and adequate whole food intake, water, things like that, contributed to a well-rounded diet. So I was just doing great on the protein, but a lot of the time that didn't translate into a lot of energy in the gym because I didn't understand that you gotta eat carbs.
So, like we were saying before when we went over our notes, is there something that you can think of? Wow, that fly just lands on your face.
Oh my God.
A lot of people say that we're best poised to teach the person we once were. Is there something you would have told your young self, or something that you could tell a young man that is struggling putting on weight? Like one basic rule that he could stick to as far as his diet goes?
Well, I sometimes tell people that I can tell them 95% of what they need to know about nutrition in 4 things. 95% of everything you need to know about nutrition. Are you ready? Eat a sufficient amount of protein. Eat an adequate amount of calories, which means not too high, not too low. Eat a diet that's primarily composed of whole foods, lots of fruits and vegetables, and then supplement with creatine, fish oil, a multivitamin, vitamin D. If you do those
95%.
If you do those 4 things, you have basically made it. Now that last 5%, we could quibble, maybe 10%, that's micronutrients, extremely careful supplementation, sure, other things like that. But that's, if you do those 4 things, you will succeed in nutrition.
Okay. So we've covered the basics of nutrition. I know that was really fast, but I want to talk a little bit about your powerlifting split. I know you work out with some guys that do a lot of heavy powerlifting and things like that, and that's been a huge contributing factor to you building the physique that you have. What role do you think compound lifts play in smaller guys putting on mass?
That's a great question, because a lot of people are going to tell you that compound lifts are essential, and I think those people are basically right. A lot of the mass that you gain, those 10, 20, 30, 40 pounds of muscle gain, that's coming from skeletal muscle. That is not on your arms. That is throughout your entire body. And you build that weight, and what comes along with that weight is solidity that then underlies the technique in all the rest of your lifts from lifting heavy weight. And I completely agree with that, and I've seen the rewards of that. However, I'll also say this. Some people early on in their training careers who have never lifted before, especially if they have lived a sedentary life and have no experience with physical activity, I'm not confident that every person is ready to step into a squat rack and start squatting under a bar immediately. What I did at the beginning of my training is I ended up doing a lot of single leg training, a lot of functional style training, because I was really screwed up. I had serious imbalances. I did not know how to handle my body, and I wasn't ready for the compound lifts. But about 6 months into my training, I was ready to start incorporating them. And in later years, I've come to see that, particularly with the squat, I think a lot of people have this experience, it just lights the fire under my training. So it takes a while to learn these lifts and do them correctly, but in the long run, you can't do them.
Great. Well, I don't have anything else, so that's awesome. I'm gonna turn this camera off.
All right. Okay.
That's super cool being able to hear from James and see him again. He has made so much progress in the last couple of years. It's absolutely ridiculous. I really like what he had to say about that 95% of what you need to know about nutrition. Kind of really falls in line with what I have to say about the pillars of mass gaining. I did create a playlist on that. So if you have any questions about what I think the pillars of mass gaining are, I have a couple videos that lay that out pretty clearly. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching the video, and I hope to see you again next week. I post every Friday.